Welcome, everyone. This is Starting Out Bright. I'm Noreen Savage. I'm so glad you're here. In case we have not met, just a little bit about myself. First of all, I am nobody official with Bright Line Eating, but I've really enjoyed the program. And just to tell you a tiny bit about my journey, I got started 2019 after a friend of mine posted on Facebook that she had lost 57 pounds with a program called Bright Line Eating. If anybody was interested, they could just ask her any questions, by messaging her. So my hot little fingers got over to the message center and I immediately asked Lori what was the scoop. And she proceeded to tell me about a book, Bright Line Eating by Dr. Susan Pierce Thompson, that talks about 4 bright lines that you don't cross. No sugar, no flour, 3 meals a day, weighed and measured portions. And when she told me that, I thought there was absolutely no way that I could do any of that. And but we got together for lunch and I learned more about the program. She suggested 2 things: to get the book and to get into the online community. At the time, she just suggested We Eat Bright with Lines. It's a Facebook group, a private group, still going strong. And I got into that group. Now there are many groups that I've learned of. There are recipe groups. There's Starting Out Bright, which is a private group that's associated with these Zoom chats, and just many other groups, exercise groups, just all kinds. And so, but I got into the We Eat Bright with Lines group, and I just sat and watched transformation after transformation. People losing weight, like a lot of weight, not the 10, 15 pounds that I was losing every few months and then getting back on a different diet, but 50, 100, 150 pounds. And for the first time in a long time, I felt hope rise in me. Because where was I? I'm 5'2", and at the time I weighed 270 pounds. I had dieted for almost 30 years. And as I said, I would continuously be losing weight, but I was continuously dieting. So this just made me realize that people really were transforming. And I promised myself that if I lasted 1 year doing Bright Line Eating, I would do what my friend Lori did. I would make a simple post on my Facebook group and let people know about this program too. Well, the year came up, July 2020. It took me 2 months to get in, to convince myself that I could try this. And watching these transformations really helped. So I got in July 2019. It was July 2020. Where were we? We were in the middle of a pandemic. And I was sitting right on that chair behind me, wondering what to post, because I told myself I was going to do this. I was going to post on Facebook too. And I had lasted a year. I'm a Christian, and I felt God say, Noreen, you can do more than that. You could connect people. These people that so inspired you, if you could just have them tell their story, wouldn't that be great? We were in the middle of Zooms, right? And so that's what this is all about. It got started, and one after another, we've had guests take one for the team. And tonight is no exception. And it's like, what can I say? You talk about divine intervention. Verlin and I have met, our paths have crossed several times. Verlin has been my guest 2 different times. Once, I think about a year ago. And the second was with a panel talking about the inner work. Well, a few weeks ago, he had a glitch with his Facebook. Didn't you get hacked, Verlin?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so somehow I contacted you. I'm like, is this the real Verlin asking me to be a friend again? And you said, yes, it was. One thing led to another. It's like, we got to get back together. And so here we are. So I call that divine intervention. But anyway, say hi, Verlin, to everybody who's been waiting to see you.
Hey, everyone. So glad to be here tonight. Thanks for jumping on with us and hearing what we have to say.
Yes, it's going to be great. And I thank you so much for coming. So let's get right to it. I talked a little bit about myself as far as the high weight of 270. I left out the part about the pain and the sleeplessness and snoring and all that stuff, but it kind of goes with the territory. So anyway, Verlin, what we decided in our conversation is that there was so much more to tell from the last time. As you said, it was the Paul Harvey, and here's the rest of the
Right.
story. But for those who have not met you before, can you give like a brief recap of what got you, first of all, into bright line eating?
Brief recap and my story don't really go together, but
I know.
but I'll try to hit some high points.
Okay.
So I was always the overweight child from about fourth grade. I ate my feelings, my emotions, those kind of things, and so I was always very heavy. Clear up through high school and on into college. Then I went through a period of basically becoming anorexic and losing weight, but doing it very unhealthy. And then I yo-yoed from then on. In 2010, my mother passed away, and my father passed away 4 years before that. And I decided then that, you know what, I was going to be going through a lot, and I wasn't going to worry about my weight. I just wasn't. Of all the things that I had going on, the grief I was experiencing, the loss, the emptiness, I wasn't going to worry about it. And my weight went up to about 253, and I held that. I don't know why I didn't get bigger. That was just where my body leveled off, but that was certainly way too heavy for me. So fast forward to COVID, and I was working in public health at the time at a community health center, and we were the epicenter. We were one of 5 hotspots in Kansas. So I was dealing with a lot of stress, working 12, 14-hour days easily, not knowing what was going on, homeschooling our daughter. I mean, there was just all of this stress going on. And I got COVID, and my body got really sick. I got to the point where I actually thought that I had pre-Parkinson's or early onset Parkinson's. I have a master's in mental health counseling, and so I'm very familiar with mental health issues. And I was having all kinds of cognitive functions. I was having tremors. I was very, very sick. The doctors really couldn't figure out what was wrong with me, and so they decided that they would call it long haul COVID because they knew that that was something that was affecting people physically. And like Noreen, I seen a friend of mine post about, oh, I've lost this weight. And she was a runner and she was always physically fit. And I said, what are you doing? And she goes, oh my God, Verlin, you are going to love this because of the psychology behind it. And I went, okay, well, send it over. And so I listened to it, and I fell in love with Susan's story, having that background, understanding the addiction stuff, understanding where she come from, and the dopamine and the serotonin levels and how those affect the brain. I thought, you know what? I've got nothing to lose except weight, right? But I have nothing to lose to try this. And I was scared. I was very scared and desperate. My youngest was going to be graduating in a year or so by that time. And at that point, I didn't think I was going to make it to see her graduation, truly.
Wow.
Or if I did make it, I wasn't sure what kind of capacity my body was going to be in. That's how dire straits my situation had become. And for the first time ever in my life, I wasn't worried about what the scale was going to say. I wasn't worried about what size of clothes I was going to fit into. I wasn't dieting to attend a special event and look a certain way. I was desperate to change my health and to change my brain chemistry, basically. That's all I wanted to change. I wanted my brain to have a fighting chance. I didn't want the brain fog anymore. I didn't want the confusion. I didn't want the memory loss. I didn't want the shaking of my limbs. So I was desperate. I was very desperate. And January 1st of 21, I started off. And 21, 22, 21. I was now it's been so long I forget. But and I started with one day at a time. I knew I could do one meal, right? That's all I focused on. back then, and we talked early on, I prepped. I'd go get all the salads and I would weigh out 6 ounces of salads or, vegetables, those kind of things. And I'd have all those things ready to go for me. And I literally did it one meal at a time. I would do breakfast. Okay, that was bright. Now lunch is bright. What can I do? And I got the magnet. So many of us have seen the magnet on Amazon and different places. I got the magnet, put it on the fridge, and that became my recipe. My wife was really good at the time of making meal prep and helping me, and whatever she was fixing, she would alter it so that there was no sugar or flour or any of the other stuff we weren't supposed to have. And we would measure everything out, and she would get a little creative with recipes sometimes and come up with cloud pizza and all these other wonderful things that was absolutely compliant. And all of a sudden, my clothes got baggy. And what I loved about this, I love so many things about this, but one of the things that I loved is how quickly my body started to shrink. Now, like I said, I've yo-yoed up and down the scales before, that was no stranger to me. And I'd done it so much, I knew if I weighed X, I would fit into a size X, right? I just knew that. At this weight, I was this size. With bright lines, that's not the way at all. I was actually skinnier or leaner, as I call it, because correct people, I'm not skinny, I'm lean, I'm healthy. But I was actually leaner at a heavier size because I wasn't swollen. I wasn't swollen and bloated anymore. I was the deflated balloon that I talk about a lot, or the decreasing puffer fish, which I know we'll get into a little later.
Yeah.
But that's some highlights, and it's been the most amazing journey, and I am leaner than I've ever been in my life. I'm healthier than I've ever been in my life. I just got my lab work done. I got the results on Monday, actually. Every single lab test, and they give me the full panel, as it was my yearly exam. Every single lab test they run was spot on perfect, right in the center of the range.
Wow.
You can't ask for better than that.
And you didn't get into this part, and you're in the mental health administration now.
I am.
So you're so familiar with all of this stuff. But you said in our first time Zooming that there was this mental health component too, besides the physical health, that you actually had the gift of desperation to push you into doing this. You had the mental health stuff too. Can you talk a little bit about that, as far as, like, I know that you saw a friend or therapist or somebody who really set you straight too?
Well, again, back then, I had the full onset of the psychological symptoms associated with COVID at that time. I mean, we'd recently lost our son-in-law to an automobile accident. I had a lot of stuff happen in my family in a short amount of time, on top of me going through COVID. And I crashed. I just shattered mentally. When I called my therapist, I said, look, I haven't seen you for years, but I need you. And he goes, okay. And he did the initial screenings, right? I pegged out the depression scale, the anxiety scale, and the PTSD scale, to the point that he stopped almost in mid-sentence and said, Verlin, are you safe? And I said, yeah, I'm safe. Why? He goes, no, are you safe? Do we need to make a safety plan for you? And I said, what are you talking about? He goes, do you realize you just pegged out the anxiety scale, the depression scale, and the PTSD scale? And I said, well, I'm sure I probably did. That's why I'm calling. And he said, I know, but in our field, that requires me to ask you, are you safe? And I said, Matt, I'm not doing anything. I'm not going to do anything to hurt myself. Did I not just tell you how many people are relying on me? How much I've got going on in my world? I'm not here because I'm going to do something to me. I'm here because I can't handle my load anymore. I can't make it another day because I can't function. I'm not functioning right. And he said, okay, well, as long as I know you're safe. I said, absolutely. I'm not going anywhere. I just need help. I can't do this by myself. And so I spent some time working with him. He got me back on track. But even though he had me back on track mentally, I wasn't there. My body and my mind still wasn't functioning correctly. And I think a lot of it had to do with the COVID, but it also had to do with what I was eating.
Right.
And, as we'll talk, I know more emotionally, what was eating me, and the demands and the stress and the things there.
Yeah, this is the point too. Something we talked about when we got together this week, to talk about like what happens next in Verlin's story.
Right.
Is you said something really interesting. You said the weight was just about symptom management, or losing weight was the symptom management, or how did that go exactly?
Well, early in the first time we talked, I talked about being a puffer fish and how as we are emotionally going through things, as we've dealt with trauma or experienced trauma, there are some of us that our bodies puff up, right? Because we emotionally eat. We eat to trick the brain. We eat to stimulate that serotonin. We eat to feel full inside and feel whole because we don't feel that on our own, right? And so what happens is our bodies blow up just like a puffer fish. They swell and swell and swell. And what I said was my body absorbed all the pain and hurt that I was experiencing through my traumas and my loss and my grief. And thankfully, it didn't give out on me, but it did expand like a puffer fish. And once I learned, truly learned for the first time how to eat. I grew up in the Midwest on a farm. It was fill your plate, eat what we cooked, eat all you took, you know, and I didn't understand. I mean, I knew that you had meat and potatoes, and a side dish was usually macaroni and cheese, or maybe a vegetable, but only if it was in the summer and it came from the garden. I didn't know anything. And my grandma was an amazing 4-H ribbon winner, so we had pies and cakes and all those kind of things all the time. So, but back to the body and the emotions. So I ate. I grew up eating. And I grew up being big. I didn't know how to eat till I discovered Bright Lines, and that taught me how to portion control first of all, and
Right.
then it taught me how to balance my food so that my serotonin stayed stable, my blood sugar stayed stable, and through doing that, the puffer fish in me deflated, or as I call it, the deflating balloon, which is what I'm left with now, the leftover balloon. But my body deflated. And as that happened, that was all great. That was all well fine. I learned this healing. My brain stabilized, my serotonin stabilized, my dopamine stabilized. All of that was wonderful. But guess what? I still had those emotional issues. I
Mhm.
still had the stress in my life. I still had things going on that I knew I needed to change. Now, I looked fabulous, or I looked fabulous in clothes, we'll say it that way. And I have this extreme health. And I mean, I turn 54 next week. I'm not embarrassed about my age at all, but I get guessed usually a lot younger than I am because of how I look now on the outside. But regardless of that, I still had this emotional stuff to deal with, right? And for me, one of those things was my marriage. That always got put on the back burner because somebody was always in crisis. Somebody had a chronic illness. Somebody was something, and my wife and I were the caregivers of the world, basically. If there was a distant relative somewhere that was sick, we were the ones that went and helped them. And because of that, we always put our marriage and ourselves on the back burner. Didn't matter what was going on, didn't matter if we were unhappy. We just got up and went, another day and did what we
Mhm.
needed to do. And we both ate and went on with life. So getting thin, I still had all of that emotional stuff to deal with. It didn't magically go away, but it was there to deal with. But you know what? Doing this and learning the skills and the having the tools that I needed to be successful with Bright Lines Eating gave me the courage and the confidence to continue to address or to start addressing all of those emotional issues, because I felt like I was so successful for the first time in my life with something that had always plagued me, that you know what? I was worth it. I deserved it. I can do this. I can tackle this.
I
And
think
so that's what,
I,
go ahead.
and I don't want to interject here, but I'm connecting this symptom management. For me, my why was very easy. I was in pain. I
Mhm.
was keeping my husband up all night with my snoring. I was not sleeping well. All the different things. I could hardly walk without pain. I think a lot of times initially we get in and our why is crystal clear.
Oh yeah.
And so for you, I mean, you were desperate to change your health.
Hmm.
I too had a very strong why, and that is the thing I think for many people, not speaking for everybody, but we get so far, we lose so much weight, we're really content, but then we discover, wait, there's more.
There
And
is
we're
more.
finding we're still triggered. We're still, there are still things that pop up that we want to use the food. So it's
Yeah.
not just about the food, but the food is the tool to cover up the symptoms, right? Is that kind
Oh,
of
absolutely.
saying it
Well,
right?
the thing about it is eating is emotionally acceptable or in socially
Yeah,
acceptable, not emotionally acceptable,
absolutely.
but socially acceptable. And so the deal is, why we're quick to judge somebody who uses alcohol or drugs to balance their serotonin and to cover their emotional pain. We're less, though we judge heavy people, we're less likely to say something or to be offended by the fact that they have a bigger plate full or that they wear a larger size. We're more accepting of that than somebody who's using quote unquote other substances, right?
Right.
And so I think that's what part of what makes that harder. It's easier to hide it from society. You don't even have to go get it yourself. You can have it DoorDash and delivered at your door now. Nobody knows. Nobody sees you
Exactly.
eating. Nobody can call you out on it. Yeah.
You don't have to go to 2, 3 restaurants so it doesn't look like so much. You can just have it delivered.
Yep.
So that, and even like the groceries and stuff, I really wonder how much that has changed for a lot of people. That
Oh, I'm sure.
it really could isolate you even more.
Oh, absolutely. I think so too.
So what changed for you, Verlin? I see that I'm hearing from you that you're now, this is opening up again. Another chapter has opened. You've gotten the one part of your life stabilized. So how do you move forward?
Again, I think it's that confidence and that it's that for the first time I like myself, and for the first time I can say I'm happy. Those words never came out of my mouth before.
Mhm.
you know and that's not to say that I'm in nirvana or that I've arrived, and because it's all a journey. It's not a destination, it's a journey. And I still have days I struggle. There's still times, if, for example, you and I talk, that I have to have my evening meal as soon as I get home from my commute. I work an 8-hour day, but I also have an hour commute one way each way. So an hour in the morning and then work an 8-hour day and then an hour drive home. And for me, I've got to have that food ready. If I don't, the longer I go without eating in the evening, the hungrier I get. And the more tempted I am to either overeat or eat something I probably shouldn't. So it's not that I'm in this wonderful, perfect place of, oh, that's a thing of the past and everything's perfect and I don't ever have to worry about it. There's still things that I have to pay attention to, or I choose to. I don't have to. I choose to, because I am choosing myself. I'm choosing my happiness. I'm choosing my health, um, and going forward.
Now, one thing you said the other night too, we talked about this for a while. It was the difference between being selfish and putting yourself first. Can you
Right.
explain that?
All of my life, I'm very much a caretaker, and I always put everyone's needs ahead of my own. And I thought that was the best way to do that, to give unselfishly, to, drain myself. But if I've helped somebody else feel better, then it's worth it, right? That's what we're supposed to do. Well, I go back to the analogy that we've all heard about the airlines that tell you put your own oxygen mask on first before you assist anyone else. Well, I was the guy holding my breath, running around putting everybody else's oxygen mask on and even giving mine away, because I thought that's what you had to do. And where that got me was overweight, tired, depressed, emotional, a mess, unhappy. You know, I didn't have a spirit of joy. I truly loved giving to others, but I didn't have a spirit of joy, not like I do now. And it's because I had to fill my own cup up first before I could fill others, you know. And here's the thing. When we start to do that, we set healthy boundaries in our life, right? We set
Right.
healthy boundaries with food. That's one of the things Bright Lines teaches us, healthy boundaries with food. And as we apply them to food, we can start to apply those in other areas of our life. And what boundaries does is protects your energy so you can be a better you. You can be a better mom. You can be a better sister. You can be a better friend. You can be a better employee, right? Because you have something to give. Those of us that have just given and given and given, that's a foreign concept. And the thought of putting ourselves first was just ludicrous. That's just ridiculous.
Well, I've said too for myself when I was dieting all the time, I literally was thinking about myself all the time.
Yeah.
Not that I wanted to, but I had literally a job to do of thinking about what is my next meal, trying to do the math of how many carbs, how many whatever. And as time went on, I felt like I couldn't get anything else done. When I started Bright Line Eating and got the diet chatter under control, I felt like it opened me to serve others.
Oh, so much more. So much more. That's one of the things I love about it is that people say, well, are you counting carbs? No. Well, do you count calories? No. Well, how does this work? Are you doing micro whatever? No. I do 6 ounces of fruit, 6 ounces of vegetables, 6 ounces. I mean, that's the only counting I do. I don't look at how many calories there are. I don't look at how much whatever. I look at, I know an ounce of cheese is my fat. I know 6 ounces of meat. I know those things. I've learned that over the last 2 years now, almost. Um, but that's all I know. And I've done it for so long now, that automaticity that we talk about, I just know. I just know what it is. We talked about, you mentioned asking about my favorite foods or some of the things I do. For me, it's that 1 ounce of oatmeal in the morning that comes in the prepackaged sleeve, right? I don't even have to measure my oatmeal. It's just done. I rip open the package, it's there. With my peanut butter as my protein and my banana, and I am good to go. Don't even think about it. And it makes grocery shopping easy because I know I need, peanut butter, I need my apples, I need my bananas, I need my blueberries, different meats, whatever meat I'm going to have, and my bags of salad. I love the fact that we can get those different flavored bags of salad. Those are amazing and pretty much what we need, especially for your evening meal. But I mean, that gets me off on food. That's not quite why we're here. But
Well, no, let me ask you this logistically. You said you need to have your dinner ready when you
mhm.
get home. Is it ready? I mean, like, is it ready to put on the table? Have you prepped it or what's the scoop on that?
It depends on the day. Typically, my evening meal consists of salad, some form of a mixed salad with a protein in it. So I always have shredded chicken or turkey or something like that, ready made, hamburger meat, made into taco meat, that kind of thing, ready made. So that when I walk through the door, I can pop open one of those salads, add my protein to it. Depending on the type, I either have salsa with it or I have, a little ranch dressing as my fat, depending on, again, which way I'm going with the evening meal. And I'm ready to go, and then I can eat it. Or my other go-to for everything is cauliflower rice cauliflower, because it's so multi-purpose. You can make it Chinese, you can make it Mexican, you can just do whatever with it. So, a lot of times I'll have that cooked and ready to go. And then that way I just dish out whatever I want to mix in it. If I'm having it by itself, I know I can have up to 14 ounces if I do a 6 and an 8 and count it together. Or I can have, 8 ounces of it and 6 ounces of other vegetables mixed in it if I want to do like a stir fry kind of thing. So I usually still have to cook or put it together, but I have things ready. I don't go to the kitchen and go, what am I going to eat, or what can I eat, or what? Nope. My fridge is stocked with everything that I can eat, and so is my cabinets. And so it's really just a matter of pulling it together.
Have you struggled with anything? I am assuming that you are at maintenance. So have you gained or have you added extra protein and so forth? Many times men can add all kinds of extra portions. Has that
Well,
been true
so
for
a,
you?
a funny thing about that, so many people kept telling me I was too skinny. In fact, at my former job, I had a nurse come up because I was working at a health center. A nurse came up to me and she said, I just got to ask you, are you okay? And I said, am I okay? What do you mean? She goes, well, I mean your health. I really don't mean to pry. She was so embarrassed about asking me, but she was very genuine and sincere. She said, you have just lost so much weight. I'm just really worried about you. And some of the other nurses and I have been talking, and we were wondering if we needed to stage an intervention. And I laughed. I said, well, I've never been accused of that before, but okay. Um, and I said, here's the thing. It tells us in the book that your body will stabilize when you get to the weight, your ideal body weight, right? Because people kept asking me, well, how skinny are you going to get? And I said, well, I don't know how healthy I'm going to get, but I'm going to, go as far as I can. And I don't know how lean that means my body's going to be, because I've never been a lean guy. So this is all new to me. Well, for me, I went from 253 to 165, and I've held 160. Well, I held 165 from December of last year through about August of this year. I got COVID for the third time. I dropped down to 163, 162 actually. Was very, in the mirror, I was very lean, very, very lean, too lean for my basic 6 foot
For
frame,
your
truly.
okay.
And so I had also, in February, I had started going to the gym every day, not because I wanted to, bulk up and be big. I was never one of those guys. I simply wanted to work on my muscle mass. I didn't, I'm at an age where naturally I'm going to start losing muscle mass. So I just didn't want to lose any of that in this whole process. So after COVID and after actually moving up to a different level of weights, because my body's getting stronger, I've gained about 5 pounds, 5 to 7 pounds roughly. So I hover just around 170 or a little below now, somewhere in that area. And to be honest, that scared me when I seen that the first time, because I had held that 165 or so for so long, and my body adjusted to it. But again, what I noticed was my clothes didn't fit me any different. My shirts were a little tighter in my chest because that's where I was bulking up. But my waist of my jeans, I still wear the same size. My clothes still fit me the same. So that tells me that it's truly muscle mass, not just that my body's puffing up again. Right.
It's kind of funny. It's sounding like you lost about 90 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a lot of weight to lose within like a year's time, or
Yeah, pretty much a year and
but
maybe a little bit.
here's the funny thing. If you look back at the old days of losing weight, what is a healthy amount to lose? 1 to 2 pounds a week. But when you actually do it, then you scare everybody.
Oh yeah. Well, that's what was
That's a
funny.
lot of weight.
Those first couple of months, I was averaging 8 to 10 pounds a month, which is 2.5 pounds a week or whatever.
Right.
The difference is I did it consistently. And not only was I losing the weight, my body was shrinking. The swelling and the bloat was coming out of my body. So again, my size went down. I have a 29-inch waist. I have literally not just my clothes size. You put the tape measure around me and I'm a 29. I was at a 44 when I started.
Wow.
Right. And I know that because we got measured at work for a health assessment. 44, and I was slammed into 42 waist jeans. They were tight. They were cutting off my circulation. I had the lines on my stomach. I get it. I understand what it's like. And people say, oh, I never realized you were that big. Well, no, I know how to wear my clothes, you know. and I'm a guy. I realize I carry different. I'm blessed with broad shoulders and a narrow waist naturally. So I carried that weight, but it was still very detrimental to me. That weight was truly weighing me down spiritually, emotionally, physically, and mentally. I couldn't handle any of it anymore.
Wow. There was a question here, and this kind of goes to the community, what you're using for community. Are there bright line eating men's groups?
So about a year and a half ago, I reached out to a guy by the name of Ed. Several people know Ed. Noreen
Oh
knows
yeah.
Ed. And he said, Verlin, I know that you don't identify yourself as a typical food addict, but I have a group of guys that we get together, and I would love for you to just join us one time for our online meeting, our online face chat thing. And you don't have to stay, but just come. And so I started, and then we started a Marco Polo channel I think there was about 6 or 7 of us. And it was amazing. And I didn't realize really how much I depended and needed those guys. We talked about everything, and it wasn't a place to whine. It wasn't therapy per se, but it was just a touch base with other guys who struggled and were dealing with the same things that we were. And Ed coined the phrase of intimacy, meaning into me see. And that's powerful when you're really willing to open up and to let others see into you, not to tell you what to do, not to judge you, but just so that you can be open and say, this is the pain I'm dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
And people say, I see you. Other people say back, I see your pain.
So basically, you have an online like mastermind group on Marco Polo.
We did, yeah, we
Okay.
did.
Okay.
Yeah. It was great. And it's taken some different turns now and kind of went in
Yeah.
some different directions, but several of the guys and I are still very close. We still reach out, we still talk. Yeah, it's been great.
I have another question here. Do you experience plateaus? And if so, how did you deal with them? Do you ever go off the rails?
Do you know the thing about plateaus is when you're focused on weight, right? I wasn't focused on weight. I was focused on health. Yeah, I did stabilize my weight, because I was weighing once a week back in the day. And that was hard because I had to walk that line. When I was basically anorexic, I weighed daily and sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. Uh, but when I started this, I said, I'm not doing this to lose weight. I will weigh myself once a week as a way to track this, but this isn't about the scales. And so when I would slow down losing weight, or what I actually noticed, because I kept a tracker on my phone, and I'm a very visual guy. I like to see in pictures. I think in pictures. I process in pictures.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'll use my hands kind of to demonstrate. But my weight would go down. I would drop, 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 and then all of a sudden I would gain a pound or two. And the first time that happened, it freaked me out. And I went, see, there you go. I'm not going to lose it. I can only do so much. I'm not, my instant chatter in my head started going off. But what happened is when I held steady to the eating plan and following what I was doing, ignoring what the scales would do, it would pop up for just a day or two, and then it would drop real quick again. So I got what I called the roller coaster effect. I started up here, we'd pop up a little hill, and then we would go down. And I knew, because I understand biology and how the body works, that was my body preventing itself from starving.
Mm.
And so it holds on to that. It says, oh, you're losing too much weight. We better slow down how much we're letting get burned up here, right? Let's hold on to it for a second. But truly, it would only hold on to it for maybe a day or two, and I would drop again.
And that's usually when you have the fake and you're like, oh, like you said, forget it. I'm
Yeah, see, I
gaining
can't
weight,
do it.
so
I
I
told
might
you.
as well just
Yeah.
blow it, right?
Yeah, I've already gained 2 pounds. What's another 10?
Exactly. It's
But
fake weight.
again, Noreen, my whole focus wasn't about the weight this time. I'd spent 30 years focused on the weight, focused on the scales, focused on a size. My why and my focus was my health, flat out my health, my mental capacity, my physical capacity. And, my initial goal was to make it to my daughter's graduation. But what happened, like I said, along the way, I got lean. Sorry to say the thin word. I got lean, and I got healthy, and then I gained so much more, so much more.
You opened yourself up to explore what's really good for Verlin.
I think of it kind of in terms of, they talk about a thoroughbred, and a thoroughbred is only good when they're really out there running that race, right? Or we get that car with all the options. Well, you want to take it out. Men, I guess, typically do this a little bit more than women, but you want to take it out and see what it's made of. You want to know just how you can use this tool that you have. And truly, the better you know how to use the tool, the more successful you're going to be, right? Whether it's a kitchen gadget, whether it's a workbench or an automobile. If you have four-wheel drive, if you don't know how to use it, it's not going to do you much good. So for me, having a healthy body, having a healthy mind that's functioning, I'm excited. I love the fact that I'm in my mid-50s now, or right at it, and I am in such good health, physically and mentally and spiritually at this point.
Look at how far you've come in such a short amount of time.
It's been simply amazing, truly amazing.
Now, one thing that you talked about was paying attention. And I think it was in relation to specific foods.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do when you're triggered, or, when what you call you have to pay attention?
So for me, as I was learning this has also been a process of learning to eat foods that I've never ate before, right? So hummus, for example, was something I'd never ate before. Well, I discovered I love hummus, and you can get it in a variety of things. One of my favorite kind is the roasted red pepper. To me, it has like a refried bean kind of flavor to it, and it works great with the rice cauliflower to make Spanish rice, or you can put it, make any kind of Mexican dip, really, using the red pepper hummus. Well, so one day I got the bright idea. I thought, okay, well, I can take some red pepper hummus, and I can have that as my protein, and then I can add some shredded cheese to that, and I'm going to use that, and I'm going to dip some chips with that. So let me clarify: carrot chips, vegetable chips, those kind of chips, not traditional chips. And the first time I did that with some bell pepper, I literally felt my brain light up, and I went, "Uh-oh, this ain't good." And my wife said, "What do you mean it's not good?" I said, this is making me want to eat a lot of it." And so I realized that if I mix shredded cheese and hummus, two things we can legally have, right? I mean, it does something to my brain. It lights my brain up, and it makes me crave, and it makes me want to overeat. So what I've noticed is, for me, I can't do that. Or if I want that combination, I need to mix it in a salad, or I need to mix it in some rice cauliflower. I need to separate it and add other things in it, because if I'm tempted to eat it by itself, it's going to light my brain up.
You have a Mexican fiesta party going on.
It does it does light up and party.
Wow.
So I don't do that, because the first time that happened, it scared me, because I realized just how close I was tempted to overeat and to just keep on eating. Because again, that little saboteur in the brain starts going, well, it's okay. You're losing weight, or the first time I was still losing. You're fine, and you can have hummus anyway, so it's not like you're really cheating. I mean, all that chatter started to happen, and I went, no, I've come too far, and I'm not doing this.
Is there any other thing that you struggled with that you had to just really do an about face?
Or
not? Is there anything
else I mentioned? I don't think so off the top of my head. That was
good.
The biggest thing that I really noticed that really affects me bad. Now, I Triscuits, I got to be careful a little bit with Triscuits, but it doesn't light up my brain like the hummus and cheddar. And funny enough, I can have cheddar cheese or I can kind of have hummus, but when I mix hummus and cheddar cheese, there's just whoo, it's a party in my
Oh,
brain. So
interesting. What is the name of that app that you were talking about that you track? You said that.
honestly, it's whatever my health thing is on my Apple iPhone.
Oh,
It
okay.
just allows you to put in your weight and your blood pressure, and it automatically tracks your steps. And so I just use that as a handy deal. Every time I weighed, I would put it in my phone, and then it does create a graph so you can see. And that's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to track for the sake of tracking the data of what my body was going to do. At about the second time I seen that rise, that wave come up and drop, then I really got it that that's just what my body's doing, right? And so once I realized that, I was able to release it and I wasn't triggered by those scales anymore.
One thing that I have found, like you talk about the weight popping up, I will have a lot of hunger, which also the whole thing is your body saying, come on, you know you want it, just do it. But I know, oh, it's going to drop. It's getting ready to drop if I can just hang on.
Yeah.
Now, here's another question. And because you've had COVID a couple times, the question is, during COVID, did you continue on your regular food or did you do more like breakfast options? How did you take care of your food during that?
This most recent time that I had COVID in the 1st of August, I was very sick. And so I wasn't eating hardly anything. I was really trying to focus on protein first. Um, but I didn't have the stomach to eat or the desire. My throat hurt. I lost my taste and my sense of smell again.
Oh boy.
Um, and this time, side note, this time was very weird. I would process symptoms for like about 18 hours and then it would move on to something else.
Hmm.
So like I thought I had pink eye during this and they said, no, it's COVID eye. Trust us. In about 24 to 48 hours, it'll go away. Sure enough, it did. But I coughed for about 24 hours. It was the most bizarre thing, but I was sick, and that's how come I lost more weight down that time. My body was fighting the infection so bad, but I just didn't have the stamina to eat.
Now I have found, this is for what it's worth, having zinc with quercetin and up
Mm-hmm.
to vitamin C. That's
Yep.
supposed to help get into the lungs a little more. I don't know. It's helped us.
I was on all of that and elderberry
Oh
and
yeah.
you name it. I was popping pills, but I got through it. But no, back to the COVID and the eating. I didn't eat. The One of the other times I had COVID, I knew I was very concerned, and I can't remember. There was something. There was something my wife got me. I don't remember if it was cough syrup or something, and I was freaked out because I knew it had sugar in it.
Oh
But
wow.
at the same time, at that time, I went ahead and used it because I was so sick. But it didn't trigger me. I did once I felt better after the COVID. I didn't. Oh, and there was an electrolyte thing she gave me too that I knew had a lot of sugar in it. But I was so very sick, and I knew my body needed the electrolytes. So I weighed the cost. It was like, okay, I'll drink it. But again, once I was done being sick, it didn't. It was nothing that triggered me to go back into eating wrong or incorrectly or anything like that. So
Your brain probably just weighed it out and said, that's medicine. It's okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I truly think so.
I'm looking at the time and it's really getting close here. I want to ask you a couple more things.
Already?
And
My goodness.
this is really, this is the whole thing. What are those non-scale victories? You've talked so much, but if you can just like put them
Wow.
in, you know, how do you put that
Um,
in words?
you know, I my mental health is one, and by that I mean, my body doesn't tremor anymore. I don't have the brain lapses that I used to. I don't, my mental health as far as my brain actually functioning is much better. My We'll call it emotional health is so much better, because again, I feel equipped to handle whatever life hands me. And I felt equipped to do that before. I mean, I dealt with my parents' terminal disease. I dealt with my son-in-law's passing. I I've dealt with a lot over my life. So I had the skill to deal with it. Now I have the emotional stamina, if you will, the emotional security, the emotional strength to know that I can take care of myself first, right?
Mhm.
And because I've learned how to do that, I can face anything that comes at me. And I say that, we're always tempting fate. I don't mean it to tempt fate, but I've lived through some experiences, and I've had a lot of things just this last year alone that I just have this perceived self-confidence now, this inner strength, this inner peace, if you will, truly, that I never had before. And it all started when I changed the way I ate.
Taking care of yourself does not equal selfishness.
No,
Taking care of
absolutely not.
self helps you be able to take care of others.
Absolutely.
I mean, I have found that to be so true for me, that once I got myself in order, and it's become automatic and takes less time. It's like you said, you have the components in the refrigerator. That's
Yep.
just food. That's just the equipment to keep you on track, really.
Right.
And you have to have it there, so you take care of it. It's just
Yeah.
like you take care of business, that part of your life, so that you can concentrate on what's important for you to do. And I found that to be true too. And it's really a beautiful thing when you can open yourself up for more service, really, to others.
It really is, and it's like you level up. It talks in the Bible about what is the thing about when responsibility is given, when you're basically good with good responsibility, then more's given, and you rise up to
Mhm.
another level. I totally butchered that from the Bible, but you know what I mean. And so that's what it is. We get so focused on taking care of others, we don't take care of ourselves, and then our kids don't see us take care of ourselves, so they don't learn how to take care of them, and it becomes a ripple effect throughout everyone around us. But when you start setting those boundaries to take care of yourself, and you actually show up for yourself every day, your world changes, your whole life changes, or it has the potential to if you let it.
You know, what crossed my mind as you're saying that, as far as we're getting into Bible verses and the greatest commandment, just kind of in a few sentences, the second part of that is love your neighbor as yourself. Really, would you be showing love if you loved your neighbor the way we used to treat ourselves? That's
Absolutely
not
not.
really love.
No, no.
If you
And we
treated
would
your
never,
child that way, that is not really love. You
we
want
would never,
that.
never treat other people the way we treat ourselves. We would never talk about other people the way we talk about ourselves. And so as we learn, I mean, it seems simple, but one day at a time, one meal at a time really teaches you so much more about taking care of yourself than just how to eat.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That is so true. I love the one meal at a time. We don't have to look at the whole thing, just
No.
the next one. So, Verlin, here we are, and I want to ask you this because for those, it's just so great that you've come back and shared what's the rest of the story. But there's somebody tonight who's just hearing you for the first time, and they may be in the same critical shape that you were, desperate for some
Mhm.
help. What would you say to them about giving Brightline Eating a start?
I mean, I came from a background. I had a lot of abuse and a lot of trauma in my childhood. I dealt with a lot of things growing up, so I come from a lot, right? I had a lot of reasons to have that emotional baggage, and I have the degree, the education, right, that you would think that I should be able to handle all of that.
Right.
Reality was, I didn't. I didn't, because I emotionally ate to soothe all of that. I knew what my issues were. I had processed my issues. I had talked about my issues. It didn't change until I changed the way I ate. And that came from education. And so for anybody out there who's never, you've stumbled across this, you're not sure about it, oh, that, it's great for him, but it'll never work for me. Listen, this time I really didn't care. I didn't care about the scales. I wanted to be healthy. I was desperate not to die, truly, and not to die the agonizing death of having Parkinson's and, that is dementia symptoms and all those things I'd worked with and studied my career. So for me, that's why I said one meal at a time. I don't know if I can do this for a week, but you know what? I can start with breakfast. Okay, I made it to lunch. Now, what am I supposed to do? And I'd go over and look on the fridge magnet, six ounces of vegetables and 6 ounces of fruit and 6 ounces of protein. And okay, here we go. Okay, well, now I've ate it. Now I got to get back to work. And one meal became a day, and a day became a week. And honestly, I stopped counting the days, but I'm almost to my 2-year anniversary now of my bright days. Have some days been brighter than others? Yes. You ask if I was in maintenance. I qualify to be in maintenance because my body stopped losing weight. I plateaued in that respect. But truthfully, the funny thing now is I can't eat all the food that I could have in maintenance. It's too much for me. And my life is such that I don't focus around food anymore. I don't think about, oh, let's get together and eat. Let's get together and eat to celebrate. My whole life has changed. I have a different life now, but it all started with that one meal.
And that's where we all start, is that first meal and the first commitment for that meal. And then, as you said, do the next and then the next. There's just so much more we could learn from you, Verlin.
Well,
but I can't
believe our time's up already. My goodness.
I just want to say thank you for coming back. I'm kind of glad you got hacked.
I said right then, and it was funny that I said of all the things that I've let go in my life this year, I hadn't let go of social media, and yet the universe provided an opportunity that I had over 1,000 followers, friends, whatever they're on Facebook. And I don't now. I'm down to 200 and some. So the universe came through and cleared that out of my life too. I mean, wow. I'm telling you, you all don't know what eating this one meal at a time, how it will truly change your life.
Wow. And open you up to so much more.
So much more.
Well, thank you, Verlin. Thank you so much for sharing your story and coming back. Who knows? Maybe next year again. We'll see. But
I like it. It'll be fun.
Yes, as Wendy says, so powerful. Truly.
Well, thank you, Wendy.
Powerful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for this time. And thank you, everybody, for being here. And I'm going to close as I do each night. Good night. Stay bright. Don't let the bed bugs bite. Good night, everybody. So, Verlin, how would you like to play 3-Question Thursday?
Sure, let's do it.
All right. When we met a year ago, I remember your mantra was like one meal at a time. Is that the same for you now?
It actually just changed.
Okay. Hit me.
Don't think, just do. I recently watched the Tom Cruise Top Gun Maverick movie, and that was a mantra in there of don't think, just do. And I think that for me, I'm somebody who typically overanalyzes, and I get lost in the thought process and the what ifs, right? And so don't think about it, just do it. And I realized that's what I'd done with my eating. I didn't think about it anymore. I just did what I was supposed to do. And now I don't think about it. I just do.
That's really great and short and sweet. Don't think, just do. And when you've gotten into the automaticity, this is the thing. It's like we get into strange places, such as restaurants.
Oh, absolutely.
In fact, that'll be my second question. So what does that mean for you? Like when you go out to a restaurant, do you have any favorite things that you do?
I eat a lot of Cobb salad.
Okay.
A lot of Cobb salad because it comes with, your eggs and some chicken and some cheese. And again, I ordered the smallest one. So if there's a half size versus a whole, I'll always get the half size because I know that's closer in proportion. Um, at the restaurants, I do follow the one plate rule. So I personally don't take a set of scales and weigh all that out. I never have. I trust that it's one plate. That's all I'm going to eat. And that's a Bright meal for me as long as I ordered Bright. And then I go on to my next meal at home that's weighed and measured. So that's the other thing too. People go, "Oh, do you have to buy that packaged food?" Nope. I go get whatever I want at the grocery store. "Oh, you probably can't go out to eat then, can you?" "Yeah, I can. Where you want to go?" And again, because I've learned and I've studied the menu or our Bright Lines menu, I know how I can eat because I actually learned that this time, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I order. So sometimes it's boneless chicken wings if that's my protein. I mean, and it's grilled chicken over breaded, of course, to not have the flour. I've ordered a burger without a bun. And nowadays it's interesting because of gluten allergies and whatever all else. So many restaurants are accommodating. I've even ordered a wrap and took it out of the tortilla. I mean, I make it work because I know the life that I'm living now because I have. And I wouldn't give this up for anything. Certainly not a tortilla.
Wow. Okay, so this just makes me think about Verlin starting out in desperation. January 1st, 2021.
I believe so. 21,
Yeah,
22.
21. That's 2 years almost. Yeah,
Yeah.
2 years.
Yeah, that'd be.
Okay, so what would you say to that Verlin?
Dude, just start. Just start. You have no idea what's ahead of you. Just start.
Perfect. And don't stop. Don't
Don't
think,
stop. Yeah.
just
Get
do.
started and don't stop.
Just keep on going. I can't imagine going back to the old way. Even
No,
though
no.
there are the hiccups in the road. Like there is the to stop and think for a minute, like going into a restaurant or whatever. But there are so many times it's like I wouldn't even think about, like, there's no way that I'm going to go back. So
Oh, no.
I
Mm-mm.
think you would probably agree.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. There's no way. There's nothing. I mean, I've experienced loss. I've experienced people passing. I mean, you name it. I've experienced it along this Bright Lines journey, and I'm still on the journey. I mean, because the thing is, it's just like my oxygen mask. I wouldn't stop breathing because I went through a trauma, right? So I'm not going to stop the way I nourish my body. I'm not going to do it.
And now that you've gotten what you said the other night, the brain kinks fixed, right?
Mm-hmm.
As far as the emotional part,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you imagine what else there is now.
Oh, the best is yet to be. I am so excited. So
Absolutely.
excited. Can you imagine being in the mid 50s and so excited about the rest of your life?
So
I
awesome.
mean, what an amazing time.
Because you've done the inner work and
Well, not only done it, but I continue to do it. So as stuff bubbles up, I address it. I address it head on and I address it right away. I don't stuff it. I don't ignore it. I don't just eat around it. I address it. And that's become part of the automaticity, just like what I know to eat. I know how to handle my emotions and I do it.
the food,
I don't
I
think, I
would
just
think
do.
the trigger is the identifier.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, we've got something coming up. It's bubbled up. What is that? Why am I grabbing for more hummus? Oh, there's
Exactly.
really something else that happened today.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah,
know,
really, what is eating me, truly? Instead of what am I eating, what is eating me?
yeah, like Ed says, it's what's eating you. I don't know. We can't say it like Ed, but
No, Ed can put it very well. He's very articulate.
well, thanks again, Verlin, for coming on,
Welcome.
sharing your story, giving us so much powerful information. And thank you for playing Three Question Thursday.
You're welcome. This has been great. I've enjoyed it.
It's just been so great to see you again. Okay, good night, everybody. Stay bright.